Only two people.
Oh, I have an idea. Alright. Okay. Hello. My name is Trevor, and I am against fracking. So, during these times, most of our, well, not most, but we have problems in this country, which is economical and environmental issues, but focusing on the environmental issues, and that also relates to hydraulic fracking. And my proposal is to ban hydraulic fracking in the United States. Well, hydraulic fracking uses a ton of water. It contaminates the water that they don't use, and with the contamination, it's all coming from the chemicals that they use. So, the water usage. In order to hydraulically fracture shale and extract the hydrocarbons, large quantities of water and chemicals must be injected underground. Thus, fracking can pose a threat to local water resources, especially in areas where water is already scarce, like the Barnett Shale in Texas. And what they do is they go and pump tons of chemicals down into the ground, which there can be broken pipes, which lets all those chemicals that are in the fracking fluid just spill out, possibly into the groundwater. In the Marcellus Shale region, the most expansive shale play in the United States, 2 to 10 million gallons of water are needed every time a well is fractured. Because wells can be fractured multiple times, the total amount of water used for fracking is unknown and can vary by location and technology. In western states like Texas and Colorado, over 3.6 million gallons are needed per fracture. In 2010, the US EPA estimated that 70 to 140 billion gallons of water were used to fracture just 35,000 wells in the United States. More than was used by the city of Denver, Colorado in the same time period. As of 2012, the fracking industry has drilled about 1.2 million wells and is slated to add at least 35,000 new wells every year. Because it costs to truck water and from further away, companies prefer to use water from sources as close to the well as possible, which can result in significant impacts on local waterways and overburden local water treatment facilities. In Texas, which is suffering dangerous drought conditions, fracking continues even as water used by citizens is restricted. The landscape wilts and the animal life dies. In 2011, the Wall Street Journal reported that the diversion of water for fracking oil and gas wells is also a serious threat to ranchers and other businesses in Texas. And as for fracking contaminating water, there is considerable concern that fracking can lead to contamination of groundwater as a result of spills, faulty well construction, or other means, including disposal into underground injection wells. In 2010, residents of Pavilion, Wyoming complained about the condition of their well water. In December 2011, EPA released a report finding that compounds associated with fracking chemicals have been detected in the groundwater beneath the community, and health officials advised residents not to drink the water. EPA did emphasize, however, that its findings are specific to the area due to the fact that the fracking activities in Pavilion occurred below the level of the drinking water aquifer and close to water wells. Unlike other locations where drilling is more remote and fracking occurs much deeper than the level of groundwater that would normally be used. In January 2012, EPA began testing water supplies for 61 homes in the Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania, and provided replacement drinking water supplies to 4 homes where water tests raised health concerns. Both the State Department of Environmental Protection and the driller active in the area are cooperating with the agency, which shows that the government has to use tax dollars to clean up messes left by private corporations. So you're basically paying your taxes so you can go and have the government clean up messes that wealthy corporations have left. They're also poisoning you. As for the chemicals in the frac fluid, during the hydraulic fracturing of a well, water is mixed with various chemicals to make a toxic brew called fracking fluid. Until recently, neither the federal nor state governments required drilling companies to disclose the ingredients used in frac fluids. Some states have begun to require that companies disclose the chemicals that they use. But even in such cases, companies can withhold some chemical names under trade secret exemptions. As a result, a comprehensive list of chemicals is used in the fracking process does not exist. Some states have begun to require that companies disclose the chemicals they use, but even in such cases, confidential business information claims result in only partial disclosures. Corporations involved in fracking, like ExxonMobil, have inserted loopholes in drilling legislation that allow them to keep various chemicals used in fracking process secret. Some companies, although have disclosed the contents of their fracking fluid in response to community concerns and congressional pressure. In addition, a congressional investigation found that between 2005 and 2009, oil and gas service companies used 29 different chemicals in their fracking fluid known to cause cancer or other health risks. Gas companies routinely claim that frac fluid is harmless because the concentration of chemical additives is so low. About 2%, just 2% of the billions of gallons of frac fluid created by gas drillers measured to use of hundreds of tons of toxic chemicals. A 2011 report to Congress estimated from 2005 to 2009, 14 leading fracking companies used 780 million gallons of 750 different chemicals. According to the House of Energy and Commerce Committee, drilling wastewater is so poisonous when a gas company that legally doused a patch of West Virginia forest with salty wastewater from a drilling operation. It killed ground vegetation within days and more than half the trees within 2 years. Wastewater from fracking also has been linked to livestock and family pet deaths across the country. Many chemicals used in the fracking have been documented to have awful health effects at even small levels of exposure. Some of the chemicals that Some of the chemicals in fracking fluid are highly toxic and cancer-causing, like benzene, toluene, that one's dangerous because I can't even pronounce it, which is a main ingredient to antifreeze and heavy metals. The endocrine disruptor exchange identified 353 chemicals used in fracking, many of which can cause cancer and serious health risks, even in small doses.
They're out of time.